Greetings, everyone. It is Angelo Robles, live today on a Tuesday at 11:30. I'm starting to like these late mornings into early afternoons. They're actually very efficient. I know I've done variations of this PowerPoint and natural free-flowing conversation before, but things change so quickly in what's happening with exponential technologies and AI and its impact in finance and the family office world that I feel here in the summer I have to do yet another. And I'm going to combine intricacies of the family office community and what's going on with AI and how they come together. And again, as my title states, I'm not just commenting on AI in or for family offices, I'm living through it. So, on that note, I have done this a couple of times relatively recently. I am going to stage with a, let's call it a PowerPoint presentation, which has been adapted from priors. And let's go through it and engage the audience with questions as well. So, on that note, without further ado, so I actually gave this a new titling as well. Your family office is already obsolete. Is it a little clickbaity? Sure. But effectively, it's true, and I'm going to explain why. And there's actually a brutal math. What happens when you don't rebuild, restructure now? And now has never been a better time. As I noted, I'm not just commenting, as many of you know by now, on AI for family offices. I'm actually running it. There is no question in my travels around the US and around the world, and my work with families and implementation with exponential technologies and AI, that you could use AI right now to create massive, not a little, not incremental, massive operational advantages for you and your family office. And I'm going to illustrate to a degree, as much as I could in 50 to 60 minutes, exactly how. So, first, we have to understand exactly what is a high performing family office and how is it measured? Is it measured simply by how busy it is? No, of course not. It is measured by the quality of the decisions, the speed of the execution, the strength of its people, the clarity of its purpose, the adaptability, an important one in today's world, of its systems, and the degree to which the family becomes more capable. Now, that's an important one. The degree to which the family becomes more capable because the family office exists. I've been looking for this perfect definition, so to speak. I popped this up relatively recently on my website as it all came to me, tying in everything from my Peter Drucker-like principles on practice management in the family office, the goals of the family office, my decades of experience, yet bringing in, for sure, the exponential technology, the AI angle. And I think this really nails it better than anything else I've ever done. I know you've heard this from me before. You're going to hear it again and again. This that we're defining, really, ChatGPT November of 2022, it is not even 4 years old yet. That's it. It's under 4 years old. And really, probably since the advent of probably 4.6 from Opus and some advancements via Anthropic, as I noted, October of last year. So what, 8, 9 months ago, and especially the last 3 or 4 months, the improvements, especially in the world of finance and family offices, but really broadly, has been incredible. It's not been incremental. It's not been step by step. And we're going to go through a lot of that and how that's likely to enhance and increase the velocity of that even further heading through the end of the year, where honestly, what we're looking at now in early summer of 2026 is going to look very different a year from now and far more enhanced. But you getting the mindset now, you getting the experiences and compounding your knowledge may, For some of you with the intellect and the tenacity to take action and learn is likely going to give you an advantage that no one is going to be able to catch up on. And by the way, as I speak more and more around the country and around the world on this topic, the vast majority of you will show no interest in asking me for the presentation. And by the way, to make it fit with the number of slides that I have, I've had to downgrade the visual definition. So pardon me if it's not perfect visually, but if you ask me for the digital link to the presentation, you'll get the highest level resolution and it'll look beautiful. I've done variations of this presentation in Florida, Denver, the West Coast, meaning LA during Milken, Greater New York, and Vienna, all relatively recently. I've done it digitally in Australia, Mexico, and other parts of the world. 2 or 3% of you are really going to express a level of interest in terms of wanting to learn more. And to me, that's shocking that the level, and we're going to get into what I think is the reasons why. And I'm hoping that you're not going to be one of the vast majority, 98 or so percent, that really, it may be an interesting conversation for a minute or two, but it's just not something because no, you're so good, so perfect. You're so human that no intelligence of any other form is going to be able to approach you and challenge your position, your job, and your future. That's just not going to happen to you. There's actually a way for, in a relatively short to intermediate term, where you might be right, but it's going to be embracing and learning how to work with and manage the resources that could be at your fingertips that can make you so special, because the vast majority of people are not going to do that. So back in 2022, and really how most of you use it now, it just talks. Now, most of you type outdated prompts. We're going to lightly get in to prompting, meta prompting, and really, would you please start to use the microphone features, use more things like Granola and Whisper, and the resources, and OpenAI's resources with voice to text is incredible. And it's much more natural and fluid, especially for those of you that may be a little bit older. I could understand. So you're using it to talk, and you're not even doing a good job at that. But here's the big difference 3.5 years in. It's gone from chat to doing things. You're creating apps, you're creating agents, it's doing workflows, it's doing real work when you're not there to monitor it every second. And in theory, it can work 24/7. That's 168 hours a week. Unlike a human, it doesn't need a vacation, it doesn't need days off, it doesn't do inter-office romance that may get me, quote unquote, in trouble or be distraction, if nothing else, to the employees. It doesn't call in sick. Where do I have to end with pointing out that you need to go from chat and being good at chat to doing things? And there's no reason why that you can't get to that level. Well, I mean, I might argue in 2 days, but we're going to get to that part a little bit later. If all you do is work behind a keyboard, don't you see the reality of that being replaceable? Now, you may be so good at what you do in legal, accounting, finance, or something else that you're just simply better than what the machine at the moment could output. You might be right. That's going to be for a very small percentage of you. So if you're not putting your true human skills to work, and you're not showing leadership, understanding, the ability to not only create, really to build is probably the word I'm looking for. Now, there's a whole bunch of things that Carl Icahn has recently said. Let's see if we're going to get to it. And I know to some of you, I could be a little bit blunt, direct, and you may feel my perspective is wrong. Maybe you're right. So I'm not looking to change you per se. I'm just saying that there may be a different way to look at this and to be realistic to the hours that you put in the office and the actual real work you get done. comparative to how the world is changing and how you could marshal and use these resources that are right at your fingertips, right there, that the world's largest $100 billion families 4 to 5 years ago do not have the resources that you, even the layman anywhere, has at their fingertips right now. And again, you might be using it rather badly to be a glorified Google or to restructure your emails for you. It's not acceptable. As I mentioned, AI will be the worst today that it will ever be. Those of you that follow my content and members that have read my books and heard me at programs know that I like benchmarking and best practices, sure. But it's not the optimal point. And putting on my Peter Drucker hat and my years in practice management and working with families, it's limiting. And first principles thinking, breaking things down to their barest essence. Every person, every family is different. Knowing what the goals are, reverse engineering how to get there, versus you looking at best practices, which are often, by definition, average practices. Who are you best practicing to? So the playbook to me of best practices, especially now in the world of what we're going through in AI, is just not optimal. I guess it's better than doing nothing. It's not optimal. So my experience, one of my favorite phrases lately, and again, I'm probably putting back on, really my favorite hat to wear is the practice management hat. Peter Drucker is the king, isn't he? So the AI advantage, really it's shocking competence. Imagine, and I've done this not often enough, you walk into a family office or really anything, an entrepreneur, a company, and the clarity, the speed of the decision making, the precision of execution, it actually shocks you. The competence is so shocking. And there's more resources now to understanding this and at our fingertips, and the capability that the largest families, the billionaires, the family offices from yesteryear, AKA before AI, like 3.5 years ago, you as anyone, even in high school, now have access to resources that they did not have, and often still, through a variety of reasons that we're going to get to later, are not implementing. Part of it is internal sabotage, but again, we'll get to all that goody stuff relatively sooner rather than later. And yet many of you are not. I have a slide in here where it says you're using 10% of AI's current capabilities. I don't know why I'm so generous. It must be closer to 1 or 2%, but we'll go with the 10% to make you feel better. Now, I'm not going to go in detail through every slide. This has gotten a little bit big. It went from 40 slides 3 months ago to like 82, 83 now. And again, if you send me a DM or an email, I will share, quote unquote, a digital link. I said digital. It's way too big of a file to send any other way. You'll get a digital link to it. It's fine. My members get so much more. My private books, masterclasses, all things we'll get to a little bit later. But it's pretty obvious that AI isn't coming for just one thing. It's reshaping all of them at once. In the world of finance and family offices, I look at capital flows, decision cycles, market pace, due diligence, reporting. That is like easy peasy for AI. Anything that's based on data, pattern recognition, what did I say earlier about you being in front of a keyboard? All of that is changing and making it easier and easier with the advancements of AI to basically replace that effectively 168 hours a week. That does not mean that it doesn't need human oversight, creativity, understanding the design of it, the nuances with the principal and family or customer that you may be interfacing with. But all those barriers are slowly, or maybe not so slowly, also somewhat coming down. So this answers some of the questions that I've been building into, which I know to some of you probably has a negative connotation. I think those of you that know me by now, and I'm wrong my fair share. But I never want to sugarcoat anything. I think the industry, especially the world of the family offices, is very antiquated, vanilla, never rocks the boat, never challenges the status quo, does not push things forward. And it's the same old thing hearing over and over again. The vast majority of challenges relative to AI, it's you. It's internal resistance, it's your arrogance, your ego, and really underlying all of that is fear. And it's okay. These are normal human emotions that I go through and you go through as well. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't have exact answers for the future in finance, family offices, or anything. Could I paint a bleak picture? Sure. Oh, I absolutely could. But I choose to be optimistic. I choose to believe in abundance. I choose to want to spread more of a positive message. But to do that, and for us to take the actions for that to occur, I feel I do have to shake things up a little bit. That internal resistance is a major thing. And how do you think that's going to play out for you in this world of AI where that train has left the station? There is no slowing it down. It is what it is. You need to work with it to master it, to become an incredible user and builder. I go back to that word. And if I could do it as a 60-year-old, really getting deeper into this 2 years ago to a year and a half ago and 8 months ago, creating my own app and getting it on the App Store without 1 minute of engineering help, and how it's gotten so much better and easier now. And you have to start to use tools, not only like Codex and OpenAI and Claude Code, but even simpler tools that are often better in narrow windows like Bolt.new and Cursor. All things we'll touch upon, my books go deeper into, and obviously my masterclass, it's not just learning, you're going to be building. And you could do it. You could actually create an app. I don't care if you're 75 years old and practically never touched a computer before. How about that? Because I can make you talk to your computer relative to what you want and have the right program with some of your guidance created. I know I've done it from 6-year-olds to people much older. I mentioned this story a million times. I was at the Milken in LA just this early May, ran into someone I haven't seen in years, well into their 70s, knows two icons in New York of private equity, well into their 80s, and both of them, I believe, deca-billionaires. They're on AI 2 hours a day. The people who least need it, they're already super rich, they're older. They least need the edge, and they're the ones taking it most seriously. Ken Griffin, we all know who he is. Worth what, $100 billion plus, legend of finance, CEO of Citadel. About a year ago, he actually said some negative things relative to the advancements of AI. Well, he changed his tune. And actually, that's impressive. Someone with probably that ego, one of the 100 richest people on earth, a little bit older, maybe set in their ways, changing their mind and sharing that they might have been wrong. And again, what did I mention earlier about your ego, internal resistance, ignorance, and fear? It didn't stop the two 80-year-olds, and it didn't stop Ken Griffin from witnessing AI agents performing tasks that previously required months of work from teams, his words, teams of PhDs. Everything that you know is changing very rapidly. I mentioned Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, on stage also about that same time 2 or so months ago that I mentioned Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan, and Jamie creating an application over a weekend that he started to use using Anthropic, and coupled with the release of kind of 10 purpose-built AI agents specifically for financial services, almost old news now, as right before that was Claude, meaning Anthropic Claude, managed agents that led into this, that led into dynamic workflows that we're going to talk about very shortly. And Anthropic, with all its flaws and challenges and things that I highly disagree with, I have to admit, incredible company, organization, what they're doing. And overall, for the frontier models, probably the greatest suite of current services available. Like, you have to look at yourself in the world of finance or as an executive and look at the questions that your peers, the two 80-year-olds who are deca-billionaires, Ken Griffin, and so many others, coming out and telling you that they might have been wrong 3 months ago, a year ago. Like, you don't, like, in the end, technology always wins. In the end, you may slow it down. There may be regulatory issues. So, like, you falling behind on that is not going to ever be an advantage for you. You kind of, at the moment, not a year from now, have multiple Einsteins on call with your use of AI and proper utilization of AI agents. Now, did I take this a little too far? Is it a little clickbaity? Sure, but I don't know. Didn't Einstein sleep 10 hours a day? This doesn't. Did Einstein have grand knowledge about like everything? No. Was he a hyper creative mind and knew incredible things in the world of physics that probably still are going to be more creative than the AI we have now? Yes. Strictly by a linear measure of intelligence, he probably had about a 160 IQ, probably Fable 5, Anthropic's quote unquote most powerful model. I think it benchmarked at about 145 to 148. So yeah, I'm being a little bit hyperbole here, but I could have multiple of them. They don't sleep, and in certain things, they are better. And you don't think that limit on quote unquote current IQ of the machine is not going to enhance? You're fooling yourself. It's probably going to completely surpass even what I have on here on screen by the end of this year. Again, everything you know is changing and changing very rapidly. I mentioned I am going to skip through some things. Like, name me a function kind of in finance and family office and tell me how like AI is not already here. You're using it. I know you're not. I'm being a little prickly. For workflows, aren't you? You're combining it with Notion and other resources. You're using it to help process information and make decisions. You're creating your own apps because you know a lot of the software as a service, the SaaS companies you use that you have no control over, that you have vendor locked to, and are not customized often specifically to you, that you could do a lot of these things right now. Admin, due diligence, deal support, communications, operations, all of it is here now and will never be worse than this very moment. That's the scary part. What happens when this gets more recursive learning, where the AI is training itself and enhancing itself? Maybe it's only certain limitations like compute that is somewhat holding that back now. These are all things that I put hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours in over a year and a half to 2 years. I immersed myself in. I spent tens of thousands on hardware. I made mistakes. I failed. And I got back up, and I see this as the future. I don't like to overly reflect. A shark doesn't do that. A shark just simply moves forward. When you overly reflect, that's how it could lead to depression and overly amplifying challenges and failures. You need to always be like the shark and move forward and put a positive spin to it that beats the alternative. You putting your head in the sand and ignoring this or what I'm saying is not going to get you to where you need to be as an entrepreneur in the world of finance, a family office principal, executive, or someone servicing the community. This impacts all of you. It really, putting on the employee or the executive hat, it doesn't give you an edge. My God, don't you see this? It gives you a moat, because the vast majority of people are resistant to becoming AI fluid. Look at the difference between the US and China. Look at people like Eric Schmidt giving college commencement addresses. A guy incredibly successful, worth tens of billions of dollars, that was day-to-day Google leader for effectively near 20 years. I want to hear what he has to say, but no, no, no. He gets booed off stage by the overproduction of elites that we're producing in this country that are fearful, somewhat understandable, and not getting it yet. China, they're encouraging you to do open Claude, to build applications. They're teaching it in schools. We are damn behind. Make very clear about that. And the current trajectory, we are not going to win in effectively the current Cold War with China. With many of, I don't want to get off, but look at the current mayor of New York. Look at the perspective of a lot of people playing the victim. I did a video on that 2 weeks ago. You could go to my YouTube platform, and I got kind of a part 2 to it coming up this week. We'll see how natural and free-flowing I'm going to get into it. There is the opportunity, since the vast majority of you are not going to take the initiative, that those who do are going to be in that top 1%, 3%. You could actually be in the top 1,000th of 1%. That's not even that hard, at least for now. That benchmark within finance and the family office world is relatively low. I mentioned about mindset and compounding earlier. We'll kind of blow through, though it is a pretty beautiful screen. Look at that race car. We're going to go through this as well quicker than I would like. It's a subject for a deeper discussion. There is going to be the onset of digital employees. There is going to be humanoids, which are still going to be for full use and service for what we're looking at, still years away and really probably coming to more true fruition, even upwards of 10 plus years out. And I don't want to get too deep into this. Tokenization, we're going to have billions. You heard me right. Billions within a few short years of AI agents running around, recursive learning, getting smarter all the time, 24/7, 168 hours a week. And how they're going to tokenization and stable coins will play an important part of the world of finance moving forward. Today, not the subject of that discussion. Put it somewhere in the back of your brain. And oh, by the way, Thursday this week, 2:00 live, a special guest. I think the greatest macro strategist in the world, and by far the only one who's fluid on AI, because he uses it sometimes 12 to 14 hours a day. He's coming up live on Thursday. I may give you a little more of a teaser to the end of this, but you can't miss it. I already mentioned that under 4 years ago, no matter who you were, the Pritzkers, the Rockefellers, the Habsburgs, you didn't have access to what everyone has access to now. I get it. Some of you more institutional family offices use some of the Microsoft suite of services, and at times they can be good. I do understand. It's not my favorite, but I don't want to make my personal opinion get in the way. But that being said, if your only access is through Microsoft Copilot and older antiquated models of who they shuffle through at OpenAI or Anthropic and other limitations, then you're not optimizing AI. You have to change. Okay, I'll basically just say it. Microsoft Copilot effectively sucks compared to what else is out there. Why don't we leave it at that? Most people ask AI questions. I mentioned that before with chatting. The smart ones make AI kind of compete. And what did I say? You need to, and you could, actually in 20 minutes, go from talking to doing things. So sure, the frontier models, Anthropic, Claude, OpenAI's ChatGPT, Gemini's suite of services, Grok, they're all good. Some of them could be incredible at deep reasoning. We'll talk a little bit about some of the nuances of Anthropic and ChatGPT and their 5.5 in Codex, and once we get access to their 5.6 Soul, it seems to be incredible. They are at the leadership, at I guess you could say the frontier. But these are companies, big companies. We don't control them and the decisions that they make. And we have a lot of proprietary information that we're pumping into this, all things we're going to get to later. But you need to understand the models, where to use frontier and open weight, things we'll get to a little bit later. And sure, the highest level of the frontier models appears to be the best in deep reasoning. Do you always need that? Do you understand some of the challenges of you maybe bleeding your IP? And when you start to get into agents and are running these even whatever 8, 10, 12, 16, 24 hours a day, your cost to do that could go up and up. I did mention Anthropic is a wonderful suite. Their Claude Code, their Claude Design, their Claude Cowork, what they're doing in managed agents and dynamic workflows. It's a wonderful suite of products. Do I have sovereignty where I own and control it? No. Does that concern me? For sure it does. But I do use frontier models, as almost every family office that I know who's quasi-fluid in AI also does. I somewhat know how to sanitize, how to get into a sandbox where I use AWS and Bedrock, all things that are a little too nuanced. My book and my master classes will go into that. This is meant to be, I'm trying to keep this within 1 hour. It's probably going to be debatable. And I know I've done variations of this before, but there's always new people. And I don't know about you, especially when I'm not deeply ingrained in a subject. But when I watch a movie or a show, maybe again and again, I pick up nuances that I wasn't ready for, or whatever reason at the moment, I didn't get the best out of it. So if you're seeing this for kind of a second or third time, and there is some new content, you likely need it a second or third or fourth or fifth or 10th time. It's a competitive world out there. The fact that the world may be quasi taking the summer off, do you think that's going to give you an advantage? No, that's going to make you lose. It's what's going to do. Anthropic has a wonderful suite, understanding it, the other platforms, how to get the best out of chatting, how to do things. And then we could get into owning the hardware, the open weights, and a lot of the things I'll touch upon, at least briefly in my presentation. This is a subject we could spend hours on. I get it. Agents are the sexy part, but you have to develop skills, meaning really the work that you're doing within chatting with AI and using a lot of these models. It needs somewhat of a framework to follow. When you go into a new project, it doesn't remember the context of you, usually depending on how you set it up. Therefore, understanding how to set up markdown files, Claude skills, and second brain. And I don't want to go too deeply into all of that, but that's how you maximize the capability of the AIs, including especially chatting, which, by the way, could be incredibly valuable. And I may literally mean chatting. If you're not using the voice features, which are going to be more natural, then you're likely very much limiting yourself relative to AI. We're going to skip through some of this. We all know that if we could create an agent, would it be better for me to have multiple agents and learn how to orchestrate effectively a team of AI agents? And I hinted at Anthropic's suite of products, their managed agents, how you could use dynamic workflows. And I mentioned the 10 finance agents that about 2 months ago, Dario at Anthropic with Jamie Dimon on stage kind of released in New York. Dynamic workflows is incredible. We illustrated it at my June 23rd and 24th masterclass, where I talked into existence what I was looking for from an agent using, through Claude Code, dynamic workflows that I mentioned earlier, one of the suite of products in Anthropic, and it spun up other hundreds of other agents. You don't want to know the cost. Yeah, that's the bad part and how Anthropic, well, I guess, has to make money. But the power of that resources in a condensed 1 or 2 hours to help get the best answer and product or solution that I needed was very, very impressive. You would have to be a coder. You would have to have engineering talent on board. And sometimes takes, okay, maybe the months is an exaggeration, but weeks. Now, me at my age with no coding capability is going to be what probably 98% of coders were 2 or 3 years ago. And it does it in minutes. I know, I've done it and I've helped people do it. You could create anything. I've had napkin presentations drawn, shoved into bolt.new or cursor, have it give me a prototype, fine tune it. I am telling you, I don't care how old you are, how limited your tech skills are. I could hold your hand and walk you through this. You just have to be a member, of course. I did already mention dynamic workflows with Anthropic. I'm definitely a big fan. And again, I know I'm a hardcore sovereign guy about owning your hardware, all things we're going to get to. But realistically, I still use a combination, of course, of Frontier. And when you're starting out, it's going to be by far the easier option, although you're going to find the limitations in it, including overall, depending on how you use it and how much the cost could be overwhelming. And if you're having technically hundreds of agents running 168 hours a week, you are going to have a whopper of a bill by near exclusively using only quote unquote frontier models like the big brands that I already noted, the Google Geminis, the Anthropics, the OpenAIs, the Groks. And you might be bleeding your IP, your proprietary secrets, and they may be taking it from you and sharing it with others. All things we'll touch upon as we go along. I kind of mentioned with Anthropic Claude, doing the Claude MD file, you need to create a framework and understanding a context that you don't want to repeat every time. You want to create a series of markdown folders. That's quote unquote the .md. Doesn't mean with doctor, it's markdown. And create work within Claude, other frontiers, and your own sovereign open weight models that I promise we'll get a little more to shortly. And you could go on GitHub and understand what Andre Karp is doing and all the incredible work and Second Brain and things that he's put up there. And all of this, Karpathy, I'm sorry, and all of this is free. Free. You have to know where to look, understand the value of it, and perhaps how to customize it somewhat for you. It's easy. It just takes a little bit of understanding and time. And this will make your chatting, your building, your institutional memory of the family, their decision-making process so much easier moving forward. And you think what my books and masterclass, like what are they just teaching you how to prompt? It is so much more than that. Oh, we hinted at the word second brain. I mean, just think of it currently. There's decades of judgment made by individuals and like stored disparate in files all over the place, digital files, but files nonetheless. There's not an institutional rigor of here's every deal we looked at. Here's the decision-making process that went into it. Here's why we turned it down. Here's what we're doing in this and governance. Here's how we process information and make decisions. That could all be properly institutionally stored, and then having the resources of the Einsteins of AI, and technically hundreds of them through agents working on your behalf as the executive, the entrepreneur, the family office. You just have to understand the system and the structure of it, and it's not that hard. Now, there may be some moving steps and science and art to it and nuances. It's not that hard. If you are not working on creating a second brain, and I know I'm over the head now of 99.9% of you, doesn't have to be. It's nothing that intellectual that I have any special skill or capability. Again, my hands are tied. I'm older. My brain is more linear. I don't have a tech background. Yet I immersed myself, my will to succeed and to understand this better than anyone else in the family office world was so strong. And I put in the work. There's absolutely engineers that forgot more in one day than I know. I understand that. But my perspective is within the confines of being an entrepreneur and the family office world. And that is where my edge would lie. Yeah, we could go a little deeper into the second brain. My website at angelorobles.com, I have a tab for the AI Masterclass that actually gives you a couple of good paragraphs on the value of markdown files and the second brain of institutional memory. My books, obviously, I have two relative on AI and AI integrations for finance and family offices, goes much deeper. And then nothing beats what me and my instructors put together immersively and in person several times a year at my masterclass. Next one up, August 12th and 13th in New York City. For my members, go to Angelo Robles, ROBLES.com and learn more. We're going to blow over this. I'm not often the biggest fan of Gemini's products. They're good for giving some summary of YouTube videos because they own it. I do like Notebook LM. It technically doesn't hallucinate. That does also give it limitations, but how you structure and use that free product, and for me, going through pitch decks is actually very valuable. So each of the frontier models does something better than another. Broadly, Anthropic's full suite is probably the best, but OpenAI's is very, very close. And I want there to be more competition, right? We don't want one company or even two or three to completely dominate it. And Grok may have a surprise up its sleeve besides more current market data and in the moment from X, which makes it unique. It's definitely less woke and biased compared to, say, Gemini. So there are nuances as you begin to use all the core frontier, including Perplexity, which I do, that provide value. But having them learn to battle and fight one another for the best answer. And basically, the best prompter in the world is not you with your shitty prompts. It's understanding the outcome that you want and having AI do the prompt for you. Quasi meta prompting and learning how to use the skills, markdowns, and second brain, all fluidly described in my books for my members. My books are exclusive member content only, and obviously hands-on at my master classes. I do like what they call Perplexity Computer. It's not literally a computer. I don't know why they call it that. It's $200 a month, gives me more citations, access to the core other programs, including Anthropic, and does some cool things as a browser feature that actually could be agentic and actually does things. It's just not where I put most of my focus, where really now I'm very focused on Anthropic, OpenAI, their full suites, dynamic workflows, creating and building applications and agents and becoming far more sovereign and taking control, which is what I'm doing. And things will touch upon. I guess I have no chance of this being 1 hour, but I think I could keep it an hour and 5, an hour and 10 minutes. We still got a while to go. Before I even hit those self-imposed timelines, so to speak. Yeah, we could, again, we don't need to go over every slide. Just send me a request. I'm going to send you a digital link to this PowerPoint. As I've done this in presentations around the world, this is actually the most updated version. And again, the vast majority of you, and we got a pretty good audience today. It's rare that 45 minutes in, it keeps on actually increasing and increasing. We're doing it live. Thank you all. One of you said, Angelo, I like this better. You're a little bit more subdued and not quite over the top or loud today. I don't know. Am I a little fatigued? The weather has been pounding, no sun and rain, and I'm having to smoke my cigars indoors. Like maybe that does make me too docile. But you appear to like it. So maybe I'm onto something good here. So, okay, back to business. The reality of rented intelligence, which is what you're doing on these frontier models. You do not own them. You think because you're paying a fee and click the right box and have an enterprise agreement that they're not taking your information, that the government's not sending them a subpoena. I know that's rare, but could happen, to quote unquote spy on you. That these organizations are so trustful, corporations never do nothing bad, that they're not siphoning the proprietary information that you're inputting. If nothing else, maybe outputting better outcomes for other people, asking similar questions, learning from your info. Who knows what's going on? Are you that foolish and trustworthy to believe those things never happen? Look at some of the things that David Sachs and All In had to say about Anthropic, I think the episode prior, about how basically they're, according to him, they may be siphoning information from these major companies and then effectively competing with them, including upcoming pharmaceutical companies. I don't want that to be you. So this is gone beyond simply, as my screen says, hypothetical. These are real issues. And if nothing else, we know the story. Do I have it? I mean, it's basically here. You're fragile. You're not anti-fragile. You're fragile if all you do is rely on these external companies and models that you have no control over. You're vendor locked in. They control the pricing, everything, and probably siphoning your data. Even a lot of the SaaS companies that you use. How foolish could you be? Boy, and now you see why I'm so beloved in the family office world and why effectively near none of these companies, in the one or two times I want to sponsor at a Palm Beach, a Vienna, a Mexico City, a New York event, they're often reluctant because you're that guy. You're that guy who, well, for me, speaks the truth. And well over 95% of my revenues come from real families and family offices that pay to be a member or a consultative relationship. I'm not driven by the sponsor dollar, and I'm not going to kiss their butt and only say good things about the SaaS and other companies within the family office world because I want or I need their dollars. I don't. Okay, back to it. We all know in early June that Anthropic came out with the amazing Fable 5. We enjoyed it for 2.5 days, assuming we know how to properly use it. But again, I hinted and touched on that a lot earlier. And I know I'm simplifying the story. The government basically said, no. So governments are now partially in bed and control, well, like of these companies that are so impactful to the US and around the world, probably going to be investors, a different subject, a different time, or simply takers of interest in these companies. Again, a different subject. I have another PowerPoint for that, and I may touch upon that with my special guest who I hinted at earlier, live 2:00 Eastern on this Thursday. Now, we do know Fable 5 is back. It's back. It's got the stamp of approval. And soon, I think and hope, the OpenAI's version, the 5.6 Soul, which is probably very competitive to Fable 5, but we don't have the access to know that. Probably that will be released relatively shortly as well, with the constraints of the Fable 5 that they could keep what you're inputting as a prompt for 30 days. Maybe share it with the government. Does that make you feel weird? Now, Fable 5 is a powerhouse. Of course I'm using it. And I'm going to pay extra money to use it on API once they're a little more inclusive period, which I guess today kind of comes to an end. but I do understand the limitations and the challenges, and my most proprietary data, why would I want to put up there? And knowing that at any time, the government could just stop that spigot and it's over for that program and what I relied on. I don't like that. It's off by decree, on by decree, and I never had a vote in either direction. Now, to me, sovereignty has three core pillars in the world of AI. The open weights, the non-frontier, the non-closed models that I control, the weights, the metal, that's fancy word for my hardware, and the memory, what I mentioned before, inclusive of knowing how to structure it and have, quote unquote, the second brain. The weights, the metal, the memory. You need to own all three, or you kind of really own none of it. None of it. Again, I'm going to skip through some things that I think, if I'm going to have somewhat within the time frame that I'm noting, and we're going to get to some of the open weight models that I use and hardware and all that. So that, the most powerful open weight model just came on about 2 weeks ago. The GLM, yes, it's a Chinese company, 5.2. It shipped completely open source if you know what you're doing and how to download it. And it is maybe just there, I think, benchmarked with the current OpenAI's 5.5. And I don't, now here's the problem. This is a huge model. I don't even care if you got a $10,000 computer, like some of my systems. It is not big enough to deal with that. Or even NVIDIA's Nemotron or the Kiwi, another Chinese model. NVIDIA obviously is an American open weight. These you need powerhouse of servers for that will begin to come down. This is all adapting, but we're not there yet unless you want to spend six figures on some of that hardware. Sadly, this GLM program you're not going to be able to do. Do not do the weakened one. I don't think it's worth it. And never be tempted to say, should I just use their cloud version? I don't need this ultra powerful hardware. Oh, it's from China. I'm sure it's good, and they're not going to spy on me. You're an idiot. Of course they will, and probably worse. So when I use the Chinese open weights, I never touch the cloud with it. I download it. I use platforms, Hugging Face, Olama, and I structure it on my hardware that I own, and I'm using the AI without touching the cloud. That's effectively downloading the open weights. Again, if I could do it, you could do it. My books talk all about that. But never API to the cloud with these Chinese models. China's doing some damn good things in what they're building in AI, and their open weights, for those that have the hardware, it's very impressive. Very. This is between the US and China. There is no number three. But that's one of my geopolitical discussions for a bit of a different time. I did promise I would share somewhat of an open weight AI roster. I think Llama's kind of sad from Meta. They have something coming out, we think, relatively soon that will be more impressive than what's out there now, but what's out there now really isn't so good. I did mention NVIDIA, very quietly in the game of open weights. Nemotron 3. The Nano, sure, we could often run that on our hardware, and it's good, but their real powerhouse, kind of quasi the competitor to the Chinese GLM 5.2 that I mentioned earlier. You need to have a powerhouse of quite the stack, likely six figures early of hardware, and that will come down. Now, there is a way to kind of band smaller $10,000 or $15,000 platforms together. Not the time, and that's a little technical. And I know many of you are saying, Angelo, you're leaning to Apple products like Apple Mini to run some of the smaller open weights, to the Mac Studio, to a high-powered, $10,000 laptop and things like that I have. And maybe you want that too. But and even the Mac Minis, but the more powerful Apple products, you're going to have to be patient. It's quite the wait, as many of you know. And you know what? I guess it's worth it, but it's not the only option. There's non-Apple products, including NVIDIA's DGX Spark, which is a little under 5,000, AMD's recent entry, which is probably 3,000 to 4,000, and they're damn good, damn good. And for you to get a head start and not wait 3 or 4 months, it might be worth it. And why don't you do both? Maybe you cannot afford to wait any longer. And by the way, this is for the hardware needed to run the open weights, which I think are awesome and sovereign. None of this is stopping you right this second from understanding the frontier models. And okay, maybe their ass is spying on you, but US models at least. But the value that you get from it and knowing how to quasi-sanitize it and put it in a sandbox, but again, a little bit beyond the conversation today, more so for my masterclass discussion. I didn't name some of the others. Actually, OpenAI has an open weight. Not bad. GPT, OSS, DeepSeek is damn good, damn good. They're a bigger model. You're going to have a powerhouse computer, but other models, not as much. I do like Qwen 3 from Alibaba. I do think it's good. And Kimi, well, I mentioned that 2.6. You're going to have a lot of hardware to be able to run that. And again, do not tie into API to Chinese models. Never, never, never. And some of you are still going to want to use American models, even when you're downloading the open weights. And again, Llama, definitely the nano version from Nemotron from NVIDIA. And there's going to be more and others. Oh, and Gemma from Gemini. So they are out there. There is no excuses. And you do have to start today. We're going to skip over that. We don't have time. If you want, boy, I'm probably diving a little bit too deeply now. Many of you have heard about OpenClaw. They have a competitor that's probably at the moment better called Hermes, Hermes. Those are effectively harnesses. So I mentioned, yeah, you could go to a frontier model. You could go to Anthropic's Claude, go to Claude Code, use dynamic workflows, create agents, all cool. I do recommend you do that. But as you go down the road of understanding sovereignty, a complete privacy, and not being vendor locked and having the power of not your systems being kind of quasi shut down, which could happen on the more public facing models, you are going to want to have the proper hardware, which my books described, the proper open weights, which I hinted at here, but then you kind of have to do more with it, like some of the more frontier models do on creating apps and agents. And that's likely going to lead you down a road of understanding things like harnesses effectively, like an OpenClaw, like a Hermes, or if you have internal engineering capability in the family office, probably using PI to be able to create some of these on your own, and having like resources like GitHub and others that have so much valuable info. And I mentioned Hugging Face and how you download open weights. There's like millions, I'm not kidding, millions of different open weight and other more nuanced platforms that are out there waiting for you to discover them and to use them. But then understanding, okay, if I have a Hermes, do I still want to orchestrate the deep reasoning with the frontier model at the highest level? Maybe even paying through the nose at Fable 5. Maybe. But you want to execute with the open weight models, which again are free. Again, I can't emphasize that enough. If you're only doing 168 hours a week on various tasks at the high level programs of these frontier models, because it's only convenient relatively, you will pay a lot of money. The open weight models, I have complete control and privacy if I know what I'm doing, and it doesn't cost a penny. Maybe I could orchestrate with GLM or NVIDIA's Nemotron, but I'm going to have the hardware that could deal with that. And 99.99999% of you are not going to have that. There still are ways that you could properly use the frontier models for deeper reasoning and orchestration, maybe 5 or 10% of the use, and the execution through frontier and learning the nuances and structuring are, if you read my books as a member and get immersed, and the masterclasses will teach all of you how to do. We're heading somewhat to the home stretch, everyone. Who controlled your alpha? So Alex Karp, a Palantir, all over the news last week, talking about how serious institutions must own their means of production. I've been saying this for a while with sovereign AI, and not everyone loves Alex Karp. I get it, but he's very smart, very successful, and he's telling you this. It helps my case. Own the means of production. Start to understand, to get more active with sovereignty of having control and having the power and privacy within your own systems, as I relatively in the last 10 minutes, relatively briefly described. Be careful of the vendor trap that he talks about. Are you sacrificing security and safety for ease? And you need, I think he asked a couple of questions as a reality check. Who owns your data? Are your prompts training material? You don't likely have an AI strategy or governance. It's okay. You have to start somewhere. In theory, that could start today. You cannot rent, which is what you're doing in the frontier models, Anthropics, etc. You cannot rent intelligence from the same place that rents it to your peers and competitors. What's wrong with you? Your most proprietary information being fed into something that perhaps could be spied upon, could be trained, and be helping your peers and competitors. It's just foolish. What else could I say? I think that really says it all. And I think this is one that many of you in the world of entrepreneurship, finance, and family offices will get. Probably don't be renting, non-controlling your intelligence from the same place that rents it to your competitor. I mean, alpha, you want to own the alpha. Alpha is the divergence. Divergence cannot be rented from a shared brain. Like, I think we have to wake up to this. I love the fact that SpaceX brought Cursor. I think Cursor is fantastic. Claude Code, for some of you, may appear to be a little bit complex and cumbersome. Cursor is so intuitive, has a great interface. In my books, in my masterclass, we talk about what the frontier models produce and your capability of coding and even with agents. And again, they're powerful and I do enjoy them. But Cursor, bolt.new. And integrating this into more of my sovereign stack and the capability of me controlling potentially hundreds of agents and having them work 168 hours a week. Yeah, OpenClaw came with challenges, including breaking down and very, very frustrating. It was a hell of a first start. It's going to get better. All of that, including Hermes, is the worst it's ever going to be at this very moment. You will save a lot of money if you're a very active user of AI. A lot of money by becoming sovereign and open weight. I think I'm going to blow through the 9 or 10 case studies. You could request this presentation from me in a DM or an email, angelo@angelorobles.com. And I will share it with you. It will be a digital link. Do you understand that? And it'll be higher resolution than what, again, as I hinted when I started my presentation. Case studies are great, but I would rather end my last 5 or 10 minutes doing some different things, but I'll pass through them over 2 or 3 seconds. AI could be incredible with pitch decks. It could collect geopolitical and other information from hundreds of news sources and have that latest information at my fingertips when I hit that first cup of coffee at 6 o'clock. I am very big in geopolitics. I have an active global investment strategy. I want to know what's going on around the world, and I want it summarized. It's incredible at being able to teach the rising generation a variety of different things, and the whole future of education as we know it and what AI is doing to that. Oh, it's going to be very, very different. My family governance, what I'm doing in mission statements, vision, and others, I'm sorry, the professionals out there, some of you are wonderful people and doing good work. And maybe I take my final 10% of what I'm doing within the framework of my governance to one of you who I love so dearly to finish it, but a little bit like my legal work that I'm doing. AI, if you know how to use it properly and what systems, is doing incredible work with this. They don't want to admit this because obviously it's not good for their business. I mean, again, anyone. I could show a 6-year-old, I could show a 75-year-old how to talk, which is more intuitive with their AI and whatever, Claude Code, which can be a little bit cumbersome depending on how you structure it with the terminal, a desktop, a web, etc. Let's not get too deep into those weeds right now. To create an application, a basic one, to even recreate the structure of, make my own X or TikTok, make my variation of this website. Like, nothing is safe anymore. It's so good what it could do. Now, are you going to get the distribution of an X or a TikTok? I'm assuming not, but you could design something like this with no coding capability. The amazing things that you could do in the family office right now, including replacing a percentage of your current SaaS that, again, may be taking from you, limiting you to vendor lock, not customize, and cost too much. All of that could change. And imagine the hero that you're going to be in your entity or family office. I kind of hinted at this earlier, and this is being more future forward thinking broadly to young people out there, to entrepreneurs, to family offices. The dominant families, individuals of the next era, which is right now, you need to have a maniacal sense of urgency. Many of you are too slow. You're too slow. It's one of the things I would most tell an entrepreneur taking something to fruition and putting it out there, even not in its best form, and taking action. But broadly speaking, you're too slow. You need to have a greater sense of urgency. Think in first principles, less in benchmarking and best practices. Break things down as to why, how it's done, what my goals are, and how I could rebuild and get rid of everything that is nonsense. Related to that, you need to be obsessive. And this is a major issue in family offices. When I put on my Peter Drucker hat, modernize in the AI world, and I go in there honestly, kind of seeing what's going on. You need to be obsessive about bottlenecks and things in the way. Get rid of bureaucracy, get rid of layers, which are less of an issue in the family office than other entities. I do understand that, but still could be an issue. Okay, we may have gotten a little off the AI train there, but hey, it's not all AI, like I said. Like, you own your gold, right? You own real estate, right? Going back to what I said about sovereign AI, take control, own the weights, the metal, the memory. Those are the big three that I noted earlier. The metal, old school way for saying your hardware. Spend the money to be able to run the systems internally without touching the cloud. When you touch the cloud, you may be bleeding your IP. And in today's world, maybe that's what it all comes down to, your IP. A couple of little tips to wrap up. I love the platform Granola. I have a little thing that I could put on my jacket if I had it on now, and it basically records effectively my day. my conversations, my meetings, my one-on-one. And that helps me to do better analysis about how I could get better and more efficient. I use platforms like Whisper. I probably will be using Claude and letting people know that I may occasionally be recording calls because I want to become better in terms of what I'm doing. If I have AI, if I have Einstein-like capability, not one of them, potentially hundreds to thousands, and they could analyze how I talk and what I do during the day so I could get better. That's a powerful, powerful tool. We're going to skip over this. Maybe a starting point for some of you. Why don't you write or type down exactly what you're doing every hour for multiple days? Maybe even 3 to 5 days a week for a couple of weeks, although theoretically one day may partially get this done. And then run that through a proper prompt of the outcome that you want to be better and more efficient, and use the AIs to help you with that. Not just chatting and ideas, but actually building, including with applications and maybe most importantly, agents. Don't worry that this is too technical. It's not. I'm the living example of that. I'm not going to say it's only easy, that you don't have to put in the work. You do. Most people, well, they're average because the law of averages. A lot of people are lazy. A lot of people are ignorant. They do not adapt. I just don't want that to be you. You're better than that. I mean, I mentioned the future of family offices. I kind of feel that prior to AI, it administered almost complexity. The one built for this century with AI, it's going to be commanding intelligence. And that's effectively what we never have enough of. And you, no matter where you stand in the IQ scale or your perspective, you have the capability at your fingertips now to use resources that the most powerful, smartest people in the world did not have 3.5 years ago. And the vast majority of them are not going to use properly now for the reasons, again, ego, ignorance, fear, resistance, etc. Don't have that be you. Have the capability of you to be the person who orchestrates this, who uses it, who builds. You could do amazing things, I promise you. Is it going to be easy? Not necessarily. Are you going to have some failures? Almost assured. Are you tough? Are you resilient? Are you resistant? The things that I said earlier. You may be giving up when using an American football term. You're on the 5-yard line ready to score, and you don't even know it. I'm not saying that there are not times to heavily adapt and even to stop doing something and move on. Of course there is. But this is your moment as an entrepreneur in the world of finance and or a family office or executive in a family office or servicing the community. I hope I illustrated that things are changing, that there's technologies and resources and AI out there now, and you're using it to maybe have a 1-sentence chat or to glorified Google it to give a response to what the best restaurant in town. You're not understanding how to prompt, how to have the best conversations, how to use voice mode, and how to build applications, which could be impactful, companies and agents with high-level intelligence that is working with you, not against you. And the nuances of markdowns and skills and second brain, all things you could learn. For members of my SFO continuity, my private intelligence and strategy community, I've been in the family office community a long, long time. I've seen it all. I failed at practically everything within the nuances that I could try within the family office world. And I've had successes. Don't we all? If you put in the effort, all of this is right here now at your fingertips. You don't have to have a 140 IQ. You don't have to be young. You just have to be willing. I reached out the olive branch to entrepreneurs and in the family office world. I've spoken around the world. I've had billionaires in the front seats when I'm speaking. The percentage that have really jumped in, like I said earlier, no matter where I go around the world, it's about 1 to 3%. I'll get hundreds, maybe 1,000 people to watch this video. 1% of you are going to ask me for the presentation. And less than that is going to say, I want to take this to a different level. I want to join. I want to be a part of your masterclass August 12th and 13th. The instructors that I have, the quality of people in the room, what I did on June 23rd and 24th, and it was too big. It was like 21, 22 people, families from around the world, great entrepreneurs, incredible executives in the family office. And I had 2 incredible instructors, and we had guest family offices talk about their experience. So imagine August 12th and 13th, more intimate, 10 or 12. Most people are resting in August, but not them and not you. Because leading into that, you get access to me. You get my proprietary videos. You get my 2 books, which are over 200 pages each on AI integration, my other content as well. It's not only AI, including creating and readapting into a top 1% family office, and my family office playbook, and my billionaire mastermind about the mindset and principles of billionaires. So much, much more than just AI. But AI is going to be the thing that could by far be the most exponential to you. I promise you that. So it's July, still about a month to go, and that's good. You're not going to be rushed into the masterclass. You're going to have a chance to absorb the books, to get back to me, to know who the instructors are going to be. And then walking into that room in New York on August 12th and 13th and being immersed for 2 days and being with your peers, developing a friend group, a WhatsApp group that we'll create for that group, lifelong relationships of people traveling down the same finance and family office path. This is your time. And then you come out of that, there still is weeks to go in the summer, and you start to do, you take action, you interact with me, maybe the instructors, the peers, maybe you onboard a forward deployment engineer, an AI integration engineer, especially if you're a larger scale family office. In other words, it's the summer. Now is the time. You don't need to be every week in the Hamptons or Nantucket or Europe. All cool things. Sergey Brin is back at Google when he's worth $200 billion, because this is the time. What's happening in AI is the most incredible technological moment in history. Is it a little scary? Do we have a crystal ball what that future is going to hold? I don't know. And yes, I do have concerns. But the train has left the station. In the end, the tech will always advance and always win. And now is the time, because the timeline that I described for my AI masterclass means this summer and the weeks you have leading into the unofficial end of the summer, Labor Day here in the US, whatever, let's call it early September, you're going to have an edge that over 99% of family offices do not have. I do ask you to take the actions, and some of you perhaps will, and others won't. You know, there's reasons why that some of the enterprises and family offices are kind of stalling relative to AI, the tradition of hierarchy of how things are and used to be, the lack of AI native intelligence, structural difference, or I would say indifference, integration challenge, and one I did hint at earlier, the reality is systemic resistance. You want things to stay as they are because it kind of works, as limited as how that system may be. It's okay. It's a natural human perspective. When I heard the Moonshots podcast, and they illustrated work they're doing with organizations above 100 people. They sometimes needed to develop what's called a digital twin outside of the current operations because internal people are resistant to it because of fear of what it's going to mean to them, which are normal fears. And maybe that second brain is a concern to some of you, that it's siphoning some of my institutional knowledge as a non-family member or executive. I don't have easy answers, or, well, for sure. I have questions, of course, like many of you have. But that internal resistance will crush your organization. It's going to crush the individuals in the long term internally and ruin your family office. My organization's called SFO Continuity because that word continuity, most families and their enterprises, their family offices will fail. Almost everything does in a long enough time horizon. But you don't want that to happen to you. You want to be different. And as the executive, I don't want you to have that systemic resistance to change, because that may serve you okay and protect you for a day, a month, maybe a year. It's going to be horrific for you in the relatively intermediate to long term, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. You're going to be older, antiquated, and harder for you to have the mindset and the compounding of your capability and knowledge. And you're missing out when you have the arbitrage right now. You may not have this in 5 years. You have the arbitrage as an entrepreneur, a principal, a family office executive, whatever, an attorney, an accountant in the world of finance, that most people are mediocre, that most people aren't going to learn. They're going to let their biases and challenges get in the way, and they're not going to pick up on this. I'm telling you, I'm speaking around the world, and the percentage of people is very, very, very small that are really taking it to another level. I want you to be one of them because I want you to succeed. It really, honestly, is as simple as that. I want to see you win. Yeah, I could be a little tough. I could be a little loud. I push things a little future forward. Some of you think my timelines are, poppycock and boulder dash. I'm right, you're wrong. But we could debate the timelines. Maybe I'm a couple of weeks or months too early. The arbitrage you're going to get from that 99% are just not going to do anything is going to be huge, huge. So yes, it does frustrate me when I don't see many of you who are whatever in finance and in the family office world, or really anyone. I don't even see as much interest as I would like to see among young people. I gave my examples earlier with the US and China. But the edge that you're going to have, the fact that you have these Einsteins at your fingertips ready to work for you 168 hours a week, and you're not doing anything with it. You're making excuses that you don't have the time, yet you're lollygagging a large part of this summer. I want the ones that want more. And right there on screen, I want them to join and be a part of the masterclass. And all of that is going to happen to them this summer when they move forward. So simply go to angelorobles.com. Just my website, nothing fancy, angelorobles.com. Learn about what we're doing on the homepage, about membership. The third tab in on top is the AI Masterclass. It's a very detailed breakdown, actually, for August 12th and 13th. And again, you need to be a member. So you'll click on the link and you'll join. If it's free, you're not going to appreciate it. And I'm not going to be a proper capitalist. Proprietary knowledge that I'm sharing and saving you likely hundreds of hours. And time is going to be the valuable resource now because, as I noted, that's where the arbitrage is. As I did note yesterday, usually at a masterclass, we'll make one spot available because some of you are going to ask, Angelo, I looked into your membership, but I'm not qualified as a family principal, rising gen, or executive. I'm whatever in the world of finance or in legal. Here's what I'll do for one spot like I did on June 23rd and 24th. Reach out to me, DM me, call me, text me, 203-570-2898. DM, email, angelo@angelorobles.com. Pretty simple, all on my website. That, hey, I'm really interested in your books and your masterclass. I want to be there August 12th and 13th, but whatever. I'm in legal or finance. I'll customize a price for you relative to make that happen for one spot. And no, it's not free and not inconsequential. Serious inquiries only. So go to angelorobles.com where you can learn a lot more relative to membership. As I noted, my SFO continuity, and I'm the original founder of Family Office Association, Exit. It's been a long time. I've been in the family office community for decades. I look at it as an operating platform of resilient, sovereign, more AI-enabled family offices that want to endure across the generations. And we help families go beyond what often is isolated decision-making, fragmented advisor input for sure, and casual at best AI experimentation into more peer-tested intelligence, first principles, architectures, and sovereign AI implementations for year-round and generational, quote-unquote, continuity. So by now, you all know how to reach me. I appreciate the big audience today from various and newer platforms. Went a little longer than I would like relative to a PowerPoint-centric presentation. I hope you all had a chance to enjoy it. I will be having some other solos this week. I think I am going to do a follow-up to my victimhood in socialism and Mamdani that I did a couple of weeks ago. That's up on my YouTube. I have other thoughts now that things have played out to me very, very negative. And yes, that is impactful to those in the world of whatever, New York, finance, family offices, absolutely. And again, I'm not afraid to share my opinion, even though often, or sometimes at least, it probably does me no favors. I just find this industry so bland. Like, where's the rising thought leaders, the people that push boundaries, that do open debates, that challenge people, that push things forward? Like, you all want to be a part of the same crappy events, the speakers that pay to speak and are horrific, the horrific AI capability and knowledge and shocking, and just the hot takes on geopolitical issues and so many different topics happening broadly around the world and certainly in finance and the community. Just like, where's the intellectual rigor to kind of go to war and leave it all out there, especially face to face in person? Like, maybe I'm a different breed. Maybe I'm a dinosaur. Maybe things are changing. Maybe times to some of you have passed me by. I don't know. Maybe like the bumblebee, I just continue to fly, even when I don't quite know how. So on that note, everyone, I think we effectively are wrapping up here. So I will have some solos this week. I have some case studies of what I call 0 hour, where things go wrong, and what high-level family office executives have done to overcome. Kind of my part 2 on capitalism, which is awesome, and socialism and communism. And boy, I really built this out. So lots to follow on that. And I have an incredible guest Thursday live at 2:00. I think the best macro strategist in the world. I wish I had him for 3 hours. We'll have to settle for an hour and 15 minutes, but we are going to have him on stage for an hour and a half at my New York program for members, September 15th and 16th. He is brilliant. He's incredibly AI savvy on investments. He's like masterful. You're going to learn so much. I look forward to presenting it digitally. He has a much, much bigger audience than me. So he's doing something more than right, I guess you could say. So we look forward to having him on Thursday. So this is a busy week. It's a busy week for me. Again, no rest for the weary. I don't care if it's the summer, pedal to the metal. Doesn't mean I'm not having fun. I think I am enjoying even some World Cup, My New York Knicks won a couple of weeks ago. New York Giants training camp is around the corner. Fun family travel. Sure. But I got work to do. I have that edge right now that I may not have in a couple of years, like I referenced to many of you. You need to take action now. Stop procrastinating. You're too slow. Move faster. Take actions. Go to angelorobles.com, become a member. Thank you, everyone. Let me take one final look at, thank you for a change, like quasi-only nice comments. Thank you. You like my seersucker jacket. Thank you so much. Yes, I don't know. Am I a little bit less loud today? Is that what some of you said? Maybe it's the mic really more than anything else. But appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. I love to provide value. Subscribe on YouTube, LinkedIn, and my other platforms. And for those that are ready to move forward to membership, angelorobles.com. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week. And again, as I noted, this week you'll be seeing quite a bit of me. Thank you.